College Football 25 has only been out for 2 months, but we've already got some pretty interesting leaks as it pertains to College Football 26. In this video, I'm going to go over some of the features we can be expecting in College Football 26, both from the leaks and also other things that EA has already kind of alluded to. And we've also got a big update for College Football 25 dropping very soon, and it's going to be a pretty important one. So if you are new to the channel, make sure you are subscribed with the bell on so you don't miss any of the important updates for 25 and all of the news that's going to continue to come throughout the months for College Football 26. You know, more than half of you that watch the videos aren't subscribed, so you could be missing out on some very important videos when they drop. Now, yesterday afternoon, a YouTuber by the name of Tubby Light got some pretty interesting information from one of his viewers. Now, he's also broken some information at times when it came to College Football 25 a few months ago. So I'm going to link his video in the description if you want to go show him some love, because he did get some pretty important information. And I had to check around to try to see if there was any validity to this information, and from what I can tell, it seems to be true. So what happened is one of his viewers sent him an email with screenshots from a survey that has been going out to select College Football 25 players. Now, this is something that EA has been known to do with their other games, and this is about the time of year where they would be sending out these surveys to try to nail down a plan for the upcoming game. As they're already in the early stages of making 26, they have to kind of finalize what they think the fans want most in the game, so everything kind of adds up there. And on top of all of that, some of the things that were shown to him in these leaks are things that have already been rumors, are things that EA has already kind of alluded to some degree, and some of these features that are possibly in the works already exist in the Madden game, so it would make perfect sense why they would want to bring this over to the college game, because they always did that in the past. They would always take features from Madden and add them to the NCAA game, so it's pretty much on par with what they've always done. Now, I've made a list here of all the things that I feel are the most important and the things that you guys care about the most. Some of these things I know more to be true because I've heard rumors myself, and also again because EA has alluded to these things. And the first one, of course, is high school in the Road to Glory mode. Now, this kind of goes without saying. Some of the stuff in this list that I'm going to go over are kind of obvious things as well. We knew that this is something they were going to be eventually putting in college football because it was in the NCAA games and people liked it so much. And it was also one of the biggest pieces of feedback people had this year. They said that they were upset that Road to Glory did not have high school like the old NCAA games did. So some of these things kind of are just common sense. We know that these are things that EA were going to add at some point anyway. So to hear that high school is one of the things they're looking at for 26 makes just too much sense. There was also a mention of a signing day. So what I think would be pretty cool with this is that if they're going to bring high school back, I said this months ago, I'd rather them make it better than it was in the NCAA games. I was never really a fan of how they did it in the old NCAA games. It was cool to be there, but it was just way too easy, and it really felt like you could get to any school you wanted to. I hope that they can do this in a way that's a little bit more dynamic, that can make it challenging to get to the bigger schools, or that you can maybe pick a path to go down that could be a little bit more challenging, or a path that could be a little easier if you want to just get on at a small school. And hopefully when it comes to signing day, it can be something a little bit bigger than just simply picking what school you want to go to. Maybe you would have to reach certain criteria to get to a certain type of school because of the scheme that they run, or maybe they can take some stuff from the recruiting and dynasty mode and actually have these schools really try to pitch you and try to convince you to go to a different school, and maybe depending on the school you pick, it can affect different things about your player development. I would just like to see them go in depth with this and make it better than it was with the old college games, but the fact that we know it's coming back is a pretty big deal. The next big thing that was revealed as a possible addition to 26 was a trophy room, and I'm pretty sure they're going to add this because it seems to be one of the biggest complaints about 25. People want to see a trophy room where it can show past awards they've won and things like that. It also mentioned instant classics, so it would list your instant classic games inside of here as well. You could look at them, which would mean instant classics would also be returning. Now, they probably wouldn't be ESPN instant classics because I don't think they're going to be doing a deal with ESPN again, but something in the place of that would exist and serve the same purpose, which would be pretty cool. Now, there's a bunch of other stuff we're going to go over in a second, but I do want to mention really quickly that we are still sponsored by Underdog. They've been a huge supporter of the channel, and if you like sports and you like winning money, then you've got to be on Underdog playing their pick'em game. Basically, all you have to do is pick higher or lower on player stats, and if they hit, you can win some big money. But the best part about Underdog is they give you a free play at sign up, and they give you free money to play with. And since the NFL season just kicked off, they're actually throwing out even more free plays, which is great. So if you sign up this week, you're going to get 2 free plays. You're going to get CeeDee Lamb to get a single yard, meaning all you have to do is get 1 yard, and that's it. You win. Now, you'll also get an additional free play this week if you sign up. If you want to play on Thursday, they're going to give you Aaron Rodgers to get a single yard. If you want to wait and play on Sunday, you can get Patrick Mahomes to get a single yard. Or if you want to wait till the Monday night game, you'll get Joe Burrow to get a single yard. And no matter when you sign up, there will always be a free play just like this. So even if it's a month from now, there's going to be a play just like this for you to take advantage of. And if you sign up using my code RAY, R-A-Y, they'll also give you up to $1,000 in bonus cash at sign up, and you just simply can't beat that. Now, the next thing that was mentioned that could potentially be in College Football 26, remember, these are things that they're asking for feedback on. They want to know what fans want to see the most. So maybe not every single one of these things will make it into the game, but I think we can kind of figure out the ones that are most likely, and those are the ones that I've mainly listed. But the next one is storylines for Road to Glory. Now, depending on the type of player you are, you're either going to love this or hate this. Me, personally, I don't feel like this is ever usually done that well in sports games. It's usually kind of cheesy, it's corny, and it's a lot of times stuff that people want to skip past. So I'm hoping maybe they go against this one. But again, it's going to depend on a lot of the feedback they get from the people they're sending these surveys out to. Now, they've done this in games like Madden with Face of the Franchise. NBA 2K has done this with their My Career mode. Again, a lot of times it really does not play out that well, but some people do absolutely love the idea of having the storyline integrated into these modes. I'm not mad if they're going to try to do it, for the simple fact that I want them to try to make Road to Glory better. I think it is the mode that needs the most stuff added to it. I just hope it's done in a way that is just not too cheesy and corny if they go through with it, but this is one of the things they're potentially looking into. Another thing that I can almost guarantee is probably going to be in 26 is formation subs. So among the things that have been complained about the most this year that aren't in the game, I feel like the three biggest ones that I see the most are High School and Road to Glory, Trophy Room, and formation subs. Those are the ones that pop up quite often, and they know that as well. And I'm guessing the people that are doing these surveys are going to be saying that they really want these things in the game. So formation subs is definitely on the radar of EA. It was in the old NCAA games. This is most likely going to be coming to College Football 26. Here's another big one, real coaches. Now, this is another one that I want to say I'm pretty confident will be in 26 because they've already alluded to this even before 25 came out. They said that one of the few things they couldn't get in the game this year in terms of realism was real coaches, right? They focused on getting all the teams, trying to get the atmospheres in the stadium as accurate as possible, getting the real players in the game, getting real playbooks in the game for how teams run their offenses, and they got most of that stuff done pretty well. But they said the one thing they were not able to get to this year were real coaches, but they said that that is something that is going to be coming sooner rather than later. So the fact that this was a part of the survey and EA has already alluded to this before this version of the game came out, I think it's pretty safe to say we're going to have real coaches in 26. So you're going to see guys like Brian Kelly and Lane Kiffin and Matt Rule and all of those guys, Deion Sanders. You're going to see those guys in the game. Now let's move on to some gameplay stuff because this is interesting. Some of these things I think are pretty much locks because these are things that are in Madden. And the first one here that was revealed in the video was that they're going to be adding potentially the ability to focus train certain players. It could be up to 5 players a year where you can manually try to further progress 5 players on your team. Whereas right now we know that the only way that players progress is in the off-season training, and it's just kind of an automatic thing that happens. Now this, I think, is one of those things that, while small, makes a very big difference for Dynasty. That adds a lot of depth because if you can single out 5 players that you love, let's say it's 5 big-time recruits you got coming in, or it's even just 5 younger guys that were already on the team when you started, and you say, these guys have some good stats here or there, these guys could really be something, I want to really try to get these guys to progress faster. You'll be able to do that. Now, the reason I say that this is going to happen is because you can already do this in Madden, and you've been able to do it for years. You can do it during the weekly practice. Now, how it is in Madden right now, you actually have mini games that you could do this with. And again, those same mini games are already in College Football 25. So how this would likely work is during the season, you pick your 5 players. So let's say it's a running back. You're going to play the running back mini games, like the Oklahoma drill and stuff like that. And depending on how you perform in those drills, you'll get extra XP to put towards your player. If you want to progress a QB, you'll do the pocket passing drills or the scrambling drills and things like that. If it's a defensive back, you'll do the DB drills where you got to go one-on-one against a receiver. That's likely what they're going to do. And because this is already in Madden, it feels like a no-brainer that that's going to be in 26 because this isn't something they have to completely rebuild. It's something they more so just have to carry over. Now, to go along with this is wear and tear management. Now, we know wear and tear is a big part of College Football 25, and they're going to keep expanding on this. But with the management, what this means, how it was described in Tubby Light's video, is it's going to be how you're going to have these guys practicing. Once again, this exists in Madden. It's called health and management in Madden. And what you do week to week is you can go, it's a settings menu where you say, hey, I want my players to practice in half pads. I'm going to split the reps between starters and backups, or I'm going to just only practice with the starters, or I'm only going to run the backups backups this week. You can tailor it however you want, but there are some risks that go along with this. If you don't manage this the right way, later in the season, your players can become fatigued or become more prone to injury as their bodies wear down with the wear and tear system. So when you're doing these practices, you might want to split up the reps and make sure you're not overdoing it with your starters every week, or you're not going full pads every week. So I'm just assuming that that's going to be the same system in Madden, because how it was described, it sounds exactly like it is in Madden. And once again, if it works there, it really makes no sense for them not to bring it over to this game to add a little bit of an extra layer of depth to Dynasty. It's something they don't have to put a whole world of work into because they already have that system and they can just bring it over here. Now, continuing even further down that path, there was a mention of game day strategies and game planning. Again, this exists in Madden's franchise mode. You can go to the game plan screen, you can tweak a few things, it'll tell you a little bit about your opponent, who are their star players, what type of plays they like to run in down and distance, what type of a coverage style team they are. It shows you all this little bits of information, and you can game plan and say, we want to focus on stopping the run this week, and you'll get a slight boost to your run stopping attributes on defense. So you'll get a boost to like maybe your tackling and stuff like that. Or on offense, you could say, we want to focus on running the ball this week because that's what they're weak against, and it'll give you some boost with your juke moves or your carrying and stuff like that. Again, I'm assuming this is the same thing they're going to carry over from Madden. Now, something new that they mentioned here as a possibility are playbook installs, which means week to week you can install certain plays, which is what teams do in real life. And if you successfully perform these plays, you'll get some type of a boost. Now, what type of a boost would that be? I don't know. Maybe XP for your coach or your team. We don't really know how that would work, but that would be kind of an interesting new thing. That's not something to my knowledge that's in Madden unless it's under something else and I'm confusing it. This sounds like a new idea, which is something that sounds cool. Another new idea that was mentioned in here are custom zones. No clue what that means because we already have zone drops in the game where that means you could take certain zones and you can tell them how far back you want them to drop. So I don't know what custom zones are, but I do know that the college team definitely pushed some stuff forward this year. Even though the gameplay team is mostly the same between college and Madden, there are a couple of guys that lead the game, like Scott O'Gallagher, who is more gameplay oriented. And I know he came up with revamped passing, and I think he came up with a couple of the other features that did get carried over to Madden. So custom zones could be a new thing that he's working on, and it feels like he usually has pretty good ideas. So while this is pretty vague, it definitely is something to keep an eye on that could be very interesting. Now, in terms of franchise mode, some of the things they mentioned as possibilities for 26 are program points, and this would be something that you would use on your staff, your players, and on recruiting. Now, how exactly is this going to work? I don't know, because there's already coach points in the game where you can kind of build them up more so from a team building and recruiting standpoint, but maybe they're going to expand on this more to where you have certain points that you use on your staff and on maybe progressing players, and maybe they're keeping these things separate from one another. Not really sure. I'm all for anything that makes Dynasty a little bit deeper because that's definitely something that they need to do. I think it was fine for this first year, but there's definitely some more things that they need to add and they should add to make it better. So we're not really sure exactly what program points are going to be, but it sounds pretty interesting. They also mentioned recruiting battles, which I think sounds extremely interesting, which it said once you get down to the last two schools, I'm guessing if the battle was close, then you would get into what's called a recruiting battle between the two schools. Now, maybe from that point on, recruiting takes a slight different turn. Maybe there's different ways that you can pitch the player at that point, or maybe there's just different interactions that could happen. I just think anything, to even make recruiting more exciting, because it's probably the best part about Dynasty right now. So if you can make that even better, that's cool. Sticking along with that, it was also mentioned that dynamic deal breakers could be a thing. Now, the deal breakers are already dynamic in a way where, if a guy likes your playing style, but then your playing style kind of changes, then they could want to transfer away. But what dynamic deal breakers kind of sounded like is potentially something where I guess a guy's deal breaker could completely change. So maybe a guy's deal breaker is playing style, and then, maybe after a year, he changes his mind and he says, you know what? I actually really want to be on a team that can win the championship. Maybe initially he didn't care about winning a championship. He just wanted to get on a team that fit his playing style. Let's say he wasn't a high recruit. Let's say he was a 2-star, and then maybe after a couple of years, he actually breaks out and we realize, hey, this is a really good player. And now all of a sudden his goals change from, hey, like it's not just about playing style now. I want to win a championship. So maybe his deal breaker can change. And if your school isn't that, he's going to want to transfer transfer away. So that's something that would add a lot more depth to Dynasty because it would really make it interesting who chooses to stay and leave your school. They also mentioned adding more stories, and not only more stories, but more in-depth news stories, which again, I think would be great. I think that's something we loved about the old games with some of the news stories. And we know in this year's game, something that's definitely lacking a little bit, if they can make them more in-depth and make the Dynasty mode have more of a life to it where it feels like real things are happening in the background with players, that would be pretty cool. But yeah, of all the things that were mentioned, those are the things I think have the biggest chance to be in College Football 26. Those are the things that are already been alluded to, things that I've heard myself on a few of them, and also things that just make sense either because they're obvious or because they're already in Madden. Again, if you want to watch the full video, I'll have it linked below. But this isn't all we're going to get in 26 either, keep in mind, because there's also a bunch of things that kind of just go without saying. We're going to get more mascots in the game because they don't have every mascot. We're going to get even more plays added to the game, more uniforms, more equipment, the things that you expect. We're going to get more gameplay tweaking. They're going to always be tinkering with stuff like that. They're going to add different gameplay features that maybe aren't listed on this survey. But in terms of like bigger bullet point features, these are some of the ones we definitely can expect to be coming to the game. Now, if you want to know about all of the coolest stuff that you can actually do right now in College Football 25, make sure to check out this video right here on the screen.